Hello, everyone. I am Mary Anglade of Builder Lead Marketing. Welcome to Facebook Marketing for Builders, as well as those of you in related industries and modular manufacturers. I'm just going to wait just another few seconds just so that everybody can join, and then we will officially get started. All right, so it's 2 o'clock. Let's get started. Again, welcome and congratulations on taking the time to learn how to build your business. Everybody's time is tight, but I think you all deserve a special congratulations. There's plenty of other businesses that are not taking the time to learn the latest in digital marketing. We are going to be here for about 45 minutes. This is what we're going to cover. I'll do a brief introduction. We're going to talk a little bit about your target and today's customer online journey. Why Facebook? Why now? What organic Facebook content that works. So when I say organic, meaning not necessarily like ads, but just what you would post on your page. And then we'll get into ads for home builders. I'll share some results from other builders. We'll talk about how you can measure it, and then we'll wrap up with some next steps. Housekeeping, I am recording this webinar and I will email everybody the recording. It is also on the Builder Lead Marketing YouTube channel, as are all of our previous webinars. Please email me with any questions and I will get back to you. We are holding monthly webinars. We are going through something called the Accelerated Growth Model, which I will share what that is in a few minutes. And please connect with us. Again, if you missed the previous webinars, you can find them on YouTube. We are also on social media, and I will share a link on how you can easily connect with me. And please share. We love doing these webinars and really love to share knowledge with the entire industry and the related businesses. We, as I mentioned, are doing these monthly, and our next webinar is already scheduled for June 18th at the same time frame. We are going to be doing an email marketing masterclass. Email is such an essential part of communicating today, and we personally have clients who have been able to acquire new clients as well as resuscitate old ones through email. So we're going to be sharing some of those best practices, how to build up your email list if you don't really have one, how to even potentially, acquire lists so that you can, leverage this really powerful marketing mechanism. And you can sign up. There's this QR code. If you scan it with the camera on your phone, it'll take you to the sign up page. So please do that. And then also, as I mentioned, you can connect with us and we will be advertising it on our social pages. Who am I? As I said, my name is Mary Anglade. I am the founder of Builder Lead Marketing. I have over 25 years of experience in marketing. Oops, sorry about that. That went a little quick. I have owned a digital marketing agency since 2012. My legacy agency, which I still own, is called SparkGen Marketing, and I've worked with dozens of businesses across many, many industries, B2B, large corporations, nonprofits. But a few years back, we ended up with a few home builder clients and modular home builders. And me and my team, I have an extended team here and actually a few in other parts of the country. We really enjoyed working with the building industry. It's very visual. it lends itself really well to digital marketing. And so we have loved working with these businesses and seeing them grow, and most importantly, seeing their leads and their sales and revenues grow. We are associate members of the Modular Home Builders Association. That may have been how you found out about this webinar, as well as the Home Builders Association, and we are in the Fairfield, Connecticut chapter. I am also personally a member of Professional Women in Building. Um, my early career was actually in finance. I was a lender in New York City for a money center bank, and I lent money. My satellite office was in the garment center, and most of my clients were fashion businesses, which is a very tough business. So that's where I really learned about cash flow and sales and, finance. And I bring a very results oriented approach to marketing. Digital marketing is very measurable. So that permeates the entire organization. And we are very transparent and we work very closely with our clients, sharing the results of their campaigns and our work. So if you've worked with other marketing companies, you don't really know what they're doing. That is not us. As I mentioned, so Builder Lead Marketing, actually, I rebranded the company, I guess it was about 8 or 9 months ago, because we really do have a growing number of home builder clients and modular clients as well, and wanted a brand that really spoke to that niche. So we offer a few different programs. Foundations it's a website and maintenance program. Your marketing really online needs to start with your website. It's super important. And we did a whole webinar on that, which you can watch on YouTube. And then we have other programs. Accelerate is website plus, Google Ads, SEO, right? So getting found on search, beating out your competitors, you know, um, and social media, using that to drive traffic, using that to advertise. And then enterprise, we work with larger companies. We kind of function as their marketing department, and we will do some custom work as well. We still do print. So if you'd like to try us out to do a postcard or something like that, we have many, many years of experience doing that. And we do offer, since this is about Facebook, we do offer a Facebook only, you can hire us to manage your Facebook, both the organic part as well as running ads for you. So I realize there might be some people who are like, well, I actually would just like some help. And so if that's the case, you can book time. You can scan this QR code with your phone. That'll bring you to a calendar and you can just book some time and we will have a discovery call. It won't be more than a half hour. Or you can send me an email directly and we can have a conversation if it makes sense to potentially work together. So this QR code will bring you to a link tree. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. I love to have a growing network of people in the industry. By the way, we do try to share really helpful tips on social media, and we post our webinars. We post, valuable content because that's how we see, our clients, and our prospects, what they're interested in. We also have a free digital ebook, The Builder's Blueprint. So if you go to this link tree, you'll be able to access that as well. As I mentioned, we follow something called the accelerated growth model. So it's an integrated approach to digital marketing. Today on the left, you can see we are tackling Facebook, social media, but in particular Facebook. We will likely have some future webinars about Instagram, LinkedIn. All these social platforms are all a little bit different. And Facebook, there's enough to learn here that we wanted to dedicate an entire session to it. Our last webinar last month was on paid search, so Google Ads. And then we did one before that on SEO, so organically being found in the search engines. Our next one's going to be on database or email marketing. So all of these channels really work together. Sometimes we get that question, what should I do? if you have the budget, you should do all of it if you really want to grow. Not to say that sometimes you're just getting started, so maybe you want to pick one. We do always recommend you start with a solid website and then you pick at least one way to drive traffic to it. We on the right side, as I mentioned, we also are very cognizant of cost per lead and return on investment and what you're really getting out of your marketing. So let's just start very quickly, but it's so important in any marketing discussion that you really think about your target. And if you're a modular manufacturer, you might have a couple of targets. Our modular manufacturers, they still have end consumers as a target, but then they're also usually trying to bring in new builders who want to use offsite construction. So that might be the case for you. If you're a builder, you want to start thinking about, who is this person? You might have a very set group of people you work with. Maybe it's, wealthy older people who are building second homes in your geographic area. Um, or maybe you have a couple of targets. You may also have B2B targets. Think about who this person is. And the reason you really need to think about this is because how you execute your marketing is going to vary greatly. If you're dealing with a wealthy retiree who has amassed, quite a bit of wealth, or you're building homes maybe for new homeowners, this is their first home, it's very likely those people have very different lives, very different needs, very different what we call pain points. And how what you put on your website, what you post on social media should really resonate with that person. So that's always something we recommend. You just take a moment to do that. For most Americans, buying a home will be the largest financial decision they make in their lifetime. So, however you present yourself, you really need a polished professional online image. I know on this webinar, I have some other people that are not necessarily home builders, but they are in the industry. And if you are, providing, uh, you know, let's say windows or so, those are still very big purchases, and it's really important that you convey quality and trust. I know personally, we just had a door replaced. It was very expensive. It took a lot of time to actually get it right. And, when we were looking for vendors and we were looking at people to work on this, because, I don't know how to actually put a door in, we were online, we were really looking at reviews, we were looking at how they present themselves. And so you have to keep that in mind. That's very, very important. And I'll present some data that will confirm this. This is the National Association of Realtors puts out this survey every year, and it's very interesting because 97% of all home buyers, so not necessarily somebody building a home, but somebody looking to buy a home, use the internet to search for their homes. Okay, so on this in the same study, which you can look up, something like billboards, it was like 4%, TV was like 3%. And if you look at the very far right, even in that age group 75 to 95, 87%. So this isn't just a bunch of kids anymore, online. It's everybody. And all the more reason why you need to have your image. And online also means social media. So I'm not just talking about a website here. The average American spends 7 hours a day online, and this is kind of mind-boggling, but actually not surprising. I have found that our builder clients don't really have this is not the case for them. They are on site, they have very active jobs. Not to say they don't have an office where they have to do office work, they do, but they are much more out and about. And I think sometimes they forget how important it is that the way they present themselves online is key because their clients who tend to be business people, lawyers, professionals, even doctors, when they're not seeing patients, a lot of it is online now. They are online. And so they are going to find you online. So, again, really important that you have your image, up to snuff. Because when they encounter you, you only have one chance to make a first impression, right? So you want to make sure you are conveying who you are, conveying trust, getting back to that, this is a very big purchase. You want to make sure that everything is, really on target with how you're presenting yourself. So this is just a little case study, but I think before we jump into Facebook, this is very real. This is a two-income couple. They live in a high-income area outside New York, and they've outgrown their home. And in this case, there's not a lot of inventory, and I think that's the case for much of the United States. Existing home sale inventory can be very low. So Tammy, where I like to give people names and to really think of who they are. She starts thinking about we got to move. Our kids are growing. We're outgrowing this house. They meet with a real estate agent. She's on Facebook, which, as you'll see, most people are. And she starts seeing some ads. She sees a friend of hers has built a home and she becomes really intrigued. She heads over to Google and then, because she's been frustrated that there isn't more inventory in the towns they're interested in, she starts looking to build home in Westchester, New York. Okay, this is most people's lived reality today, right? We are on our tablets, on our phones. We get an idea in our head, and we start online. So you got to, again, you just have to keep that in mind. How are you presenting yourself online? All right, so let's get into the meat of this presentation. By the way, if you do think, oh, I would like some help, I have put the QR code for the scheduling throughout. If you're wondering what that is, I figured people may want that as we proceed. So, Facebook in 2025, this is a huge platform. It is the 800-pound gorilla. It is over 20 years old. I think most people know it was actually started at Harvard University by Mark Zuckerberg. He took, like, we used to have like a book of all the new college attendees. Well, they took that, they put it online. It's kind of like a matchmaking app, if you will. At least that's the rumor. And today there are over 3 billion users worldwide. 81%, 81.3% of the US population is on Facebook. It's part of Meta. Meta also owns Instagram and they also own Threads, which is something kind of similar to what Twitter used to be like. The average user has 338 friends and they spend almost 4 hours a week. In the US, the majority, it's 53.8 are women, 46.2 men. Actually, worldwide, there are more men than women, but for this webinar, I think most people are interested in the United States. And the age, I think that sweet spot for home buying or owning a home and wanting to, purchase things for that home, which I think are the attendees of this webinar. Your sweet spot is on Facebook. Okay, so there are millions and millions of people on Facebook, and they are in the demographics, and they also Facebook has data around various interests. So we'll get into this, but you can really target. Unlike, if you put an ad in a mass newspaper and you kind of know, because maybe you got that, demographics from the newspaper, Facebook, you can actually really target when you do your advertising. So we'll get into that in a little bit. Meta is huge, $164.5 billion in revenue in 2024. As I mentioned, adult users, I guess it adds up to 8 days a year, 20 minutes a day, and just a crazy number of comments, status updates, per minute. Those are actual stats per minute. So this is a very large entity, and love it or hate it, it is a big part of Americans' life. So let's talk about the pluses. So Facebook is free. So that, and I say sort of because it's not really free, which we'll get into in a little bit. But you can go set up a page, they're not going to charge you anything to do that. You can set up an account, that's also free. Facebook is huge, and do I think businesses should be on Facebook? Um, Yes, but there are caveats, which we'll get into, because go where the people are. It's very difficult to amass this many people and actually be able to target them. And that's why Facebook is so huge. It's very visual, so it lends itself really well to home building. People love looking at beautiful homes. And, also flooring, windows, window treatments, sound, all of those things. People visually want to see them, sound systems, like everything. So that is also a big plus for Facebook. It's very established. People, have been on there in some cases, 10, 15 years. They've amassed photos and memories. Facebook reminds you of your memories. It is going to be hard for another company to replicate that experience and have everybody go and remove all their photos from Facebook. And there are a lot of people who hate Facebook and they really just can't even give it up. And they hate it for various reasons. Uh, but it's very difficult because if you want to have a network of friends and it takes time to build that up, you will find it difficult to replicate that experience. As I mentioned, people have a large number of friends. It's very granular reporting. We'll get into that. You can measure your ads, you can see your posts. All that information is free and it's available to you. And again, you can really micro target. There are some restrictions around housing, so we will get into that in a few slides. But you are able to reach people geographically, and you can layer on some interests. And if you're not specifically in housing, you can even upload an email list, and Facebook will go out and look for people similar to your list to show your ads. So that's called a lookalike audience. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about that. So, what are the minuses? It is very public. So, unlike your direct mail postcard that nobody really knows that except for you, that nobody called you when you sent out the postcard. Well, if you put something on Facebook and nobody likes your post or nobody likes your page, it's there for everybody to see. So it's very, very public. The reason why I say it's not free is that it requires commitment. Okay, it's a negative. Okay, talking about your image once again. If you have a page, but you're not really posting, I could go on there and think, are they out of business? Do they not have enough money to keep it up? What's going on? You're not inspiring trust. Okay, so while it's free, if you're not ready to commit to it, it might be better not to actually do it at all. Um, that said, there is a cost to not, having a page and cultivating it. Because one, it's a very powerful marketing channel, because as we saw, it's enormous, but also it takes time to build a following. And every page starts off with one follower. And I don't care if you're Coca-Cola that has, millions of followers, or I use these examples on the left, two very large builders that have hundreds of thousands of followers. Somebody in those companies set up a page probably years ago and they started with one follower. Okay. And then maybe a few more started to come along. And there are ways to get more followers through advertising, which I'm sure these companies probably did that. I don't know for sure, but most big companies do. And I think the last, potential minus is you do need to spend money to get there. Facebook, in the beginning, people were able to get a lot of organic reach, and that's not the case anymore. There's no way they're going to get 165 billion in revenue if they gave it away for free. So it's really pay to play. You've got to put some money behind your page. So let's start talking about your Facebook business page. Um, okay, so first of all, you should, if you're a business, create a business page. And, unless you're an influencer, then you don't want to use a personal page. Your cover photo is really important. Go take a look at it right now. and ask yourself quickly, is this the best example that I could use to bring somebody into my page to potentially become a client? You want strong branding. You don't want pixelated, where you don't have the proper size. The best size is 820 pixels by 360 pixels. Um, there's different stats out there, but you have to be careful because you want your photo or your cover image to work on a computer as well as on a phone. So you also don't want any important like branding, or if you have some text on the edges, because it could get cut off, like perhaps on the phone. So we recommend this size. And if you are using text or anything like that, you want to kind of put it in the middle so it doesn't get cut off. Make sure you fill out your about section, proofread it. You wouldn't believe all the typos sometimes we'll find, and keep it fresh. You want to post 2 to 3 times a week. Some companies post every day. In fact, that is seen almost as a best practice, but realistically, I think you just want at least 2 to 3 a day. And you want to use professional images. Sometimes, like an iPhone video or something, if you're doing something personally, can really work because it seems more, like you're sharing a secret. But you don't want all of your content to be that. And certainly, if you're a builder, please invest in a photographer who will take some great pictures of the homes you build, the interiors, the exteriors. This is all stuff that works really well on Facebook, which we'll get into in a minute. And if you're using any stock images, music, make sure you purchase it. You can get into trouble if you pull anything off the internet. And I think people that are kind of new to marketing don't always understand that, but there are a lot of copyright laws against, doing that. So please do not do that. Make sure you read the license and you have the right to use anything like that. So let's talk about organic. So again, I'm not talking about ads, but what works in terms of content. So, and again, I have builders, but this also is if you're a manufacturer or if you are in the related business. So, you want a mix of content. You want 80% non-promotional, 20%, you can talk about yourself. Visual, I will say, like, if you're modular, educational content's really important because there are so many misconceptions about modular home building. People think it's a mobile home, it's cookie cutter. We know that is not the case today. And, inspirational quotes, you can be engaging, contests, giveaways sometimes can be kind of fun. If there's something trending going on, that sort of naturally fits into your business, then you can certainly share that. So this is just a nice framework. After, usually what we do is we do an editorial calendar. We like to look at what are the holidays going on, what's going on, if we're working with a builder in a certain area, maybe there's even, things you can share about the community, maybe there's special parades or festivals depending on the time of the year, that kind of thing. You should share that. You don't want to make it all about you. Get over yourself. Nobody wants nonstop promotion where you're talking about yourself all the time. Okay, so you want a nice mix of content. So homes, as I mentioned, I don't think I need to tell you this, but they are very, very visual. And people love looking at interior, exteriors. I mean, HGTV and all these famous, home influencers would not exist if they weren't showing the beautiful homes, right? Drone footage, time lapse videos could be kind of cool. If you're modular, we actually recommend more pictures of homes. Although, if you are trying to reach other builders, showing your home sets, the crane and what goes on at a home set day could be very interesting. And I think that's still interesting to consumers, but I wouldn't focus on that because they want to see the end result. They want to see themselves in the home you're building. Storytelling. So if you have any clients that are willing to share their stories, we like to call it real people, real stories. Other people love to, see that and read about it because they'll identify. So maybe you're an empty nester and now you're moving into your dream home and it's kind of a downsize. Like if you can get somebody to share their story, that's huge. And also, if you can get them um, to share it with their friends, they have over 300 friends, that can be a fantastic source of referrals. So, one thing we recommend is while you're building a home, if you can take some pictures along the way and maybe give that as a present to your client at the end, um, and then, ask them, would you mind if we share it on our Facebook page and tag you? And if they don't want you to, obviously you wouldn't do that. Or maybe if they say, well, I'm not really comfortable with that, well, maybe you wouldn't mind sharing it on your own private page. So just think about that. Over 300 people, a lot of them probably live in this geographic area, are going to see this beautiful home and the end result and your happy clients. And that is referral gold, right? So it's a really powerful source of referrals. As I mentioned, if you're in modular, education is really important. Educating people about, it's faster, the quality, the energy efficiency, the sustainability, because that often comes out, especially younger clients. That is a huge consideration. And, you just really want to dispel any myths around modular home building. So we like to say share the dream, not just, again, talking about yourself or even the house, but you can also the dream of living in a community. This post on the lower right is a local realtor near where I live, and this was an interesting article that came out about safety, and these are the towns that she operates in, and so it's a selling point, right? So if you where you build has wonderful schools and good news comes out about those schools, put that on your Facebook page. Share the article from the patch or, your local newspaper. That can be very powerful. So again, you're not just talking about yourself, you're sharing content that a viewer might be interested in. You're not just trying to sell, even though you kind of are selling in a very indirect way, but that really works better on social media. Um, yeah, so just useful information. Other ideas, featured home of the month, of the week, educational content. We recommend blogging because that is going to help you with SEO and the search engines finding you. So as you write your blog posts, you can share those and make sure your blog posts are very educational and informative. Personalize your company if you have staff photos or maybe you've done a volunteer event together. People love to see that. Or even just on site, in the factory, or if you're a stick builder, on site building a home, or, just taking pictures and making the process seem real. People like to work with other people. They like to see who's behind the company, and social media is a great way to personalize your company. You can also just offer somebody a happy, Mother's Day, Father's Day, whatever the holiday is. Um, Quotes, maybe there's some inspirational quotes you can share. So again, you want to keep it interesting. And another one that, if you are a manufacturer and you're offering factory tours, that's definitely something you can put on social media as well. Memes and humor work really well. Again, make sure you purchase anything like this. If you are going to use something, you want to go to the stock photo company and purchase it, or a cartoon stock, that kind of thing. But these do work really well, and they are available if you can set up those types of accounts. Other tips, check out your competition. You can do that right now. Go take a look. Who are your top two competitors? Go look at their Facebook page. How many followers do they have compared to you? what posts are resonating. You can actually even go, if you go to the About section and you go to page transparency, you can actually even see if they're doing any advertising. Meta has a huge library of ads, and you can go in and actually see what those look like. They're not going to tell you if the ads are working, but you can at least get some ideas. And it's always good to understand what the competition is doing and make sure that you are a step ahead. Be social, personal messages, even just happy weekend. Monitor your comments. Don't just post and then never go back. Make sure you see what people are saying. And if there's anything inappropriate, which sometimes does happen, you can remove and delete those comments, and you should. I think housing and the related industries do not tend to attract trolls. I think it's kind of rare, but if you do see something like that, you should remove it. If it keeps happening, you can put it into your About section, like what your code of conduct is for your page. But again, I do think in this industry, it seems to be very rare. Just a few other facts, but short form video, so they call them reels. They have to be under 90 seconds. Those typically get 2.5 times the engagement. So I'm not saying you should do 100% reels. You want to you have some variety, but like this little video on the right, you could put your home, something like that. Those tend to do really well. If you have long form content, like maybe you have a podcast or you have longer videos that you use on YouTube, you can take those and, take some short clips, and that works really well on social media. Facebook is a search engine, just like every, other search engine. It's a little bit different. Sometimes we don't think of it that way, but people are always searching. And so you want to make sure, like if you have a hashtag, you have tags that you put those underneath your post and think about what people might be searching for, you know, homes in Quincy, Massachusetts, or something like that. You can have some posts where you would maybe use that type of sentence in your or phrase in your post. If you have video and photos, you want to upload them directly. If you can, the algorithm rewards that versus sharing off of YouTube. Sometimes it's just easier to share off of YouTube, but if you do have the time, you want to upload them directly to Facebook. Um, and feature real customers if you can, if they'll let you, that's great. That stuff does really, really well. And then if you have any micro influencers in your area, if you're a builder, maybe there's designers, kitchen designers. Uh, there might be a way to partner and tag and share their work, and they could share your work, and you can reach each other's networks. So let's take a moment to just talk about Facebook ads, which are absolutely an important part of digital marketing for home builders and anyone in related businesses. Um, One thing is you need to learn Meta's policies. Um, if you go to that top orange link, you can go in there and read through it. If you are in housing, it is considered a special ad category. So when you set up your ad, you're going to see on the right something that looks like that. It always starts off saying employment, but if you click on it, this drop down shows up, and then you can see the second one down is housing. So you want to check that off. If you don't, your ad can get rejected, and usually you have a chance to resubmit it, but you'll just avoid a lot of problems. And frankly, it's like robots, really, at least for a first look, taking a look at something. So if they see anything that indicates housing and they don't see that checked, they're going to just automatically reject your ad. So you want to click that. If you are violating their policies over and over again, then you will get shut down, and it's very difficult to get reinstated. So it's just really important that you read through their policies. Facebook's changing all the time, even just the interface. It can be kind of challenging. So I think you have to have a certain level of patience. And we recommend really kind of reading this over to make sure nothing's changed. At least like once a month, you want to take a look at it. I don't really think these are that common for, people in the building business, but just make sure that, if you're linking to a website, your website's functioning properly. It's not covered in ads, it's relevant to what you're advertising. And again, you do need to just understand all the codes and the laws and everything around it. Stuff like copyright, again, is important as well. You want to make sure you're not using music or anything like that, you don't have permission. So housing, as I mentioned, is its own special category. So you are allowed to target geographically. You cannot target by zip code, but let's say you're targeting Seattle, Washington. You can do that. It's going to give you a 15-mile radius around that. Okay. You can't exclude certain neighborhoods. And, let's say you are building very high-end homes, and you would like to do that, you can't do it. So this all has to do with anti-discrimination. Facebook will not allow you to do that. It also will not let you pick a certain age group, which I realize, you know, some of you may say, well, I'm dealing with younger potential homeowners. No, you have to do 18 to 65 plus. So it's the entire adult population, and it has to be both men and women. Lookalike audiences for homes ads are no longer available. So this is where you could upload a phone, a list of phone numbers, a list of emails. I believe as of January 2025, they removed that. So you just can't do that anymore. But you still can target by geography. You can target by, if people are interested in real estate and home and garden. Um, and honestly, I think that geographic is probably one of the most powerful because you're trying to reach people in places where you actually are offering your services. You can think of the categories of ads as awareness, which is, building traffic, getting people to your website. If I've never heard of you, you can't build me a home, right? So there's, kind of that top of the sales funnel, reach. So again, it's pay to play. Chances are you're not going to get a lot of engagement on your posts. I mean, maybe if you have a huge, huge following, but the good news is you can put $25 behind a post and you can have it have a much greater reach. So your budgets can start quite low. And then you can also advertise for engagement. You can do follower ads. So this is not allowed on Instagram, but on Facebook, you can advertise and get people to like your page. And, there are real simple ways to set up an ad. You go into your ad center. So on the right here is a screen shot. If you want the more complicated techniques, you've got to go into the business suite into Ads Manager. So when you go in, there's going to be like a widget. And again, they kind of just say, well, what do you want to do? Get more website visitors is usually a big one because this can be a very powerful source of website traffic. It's not necessarily the best website traffic, but it's reasonably inexpensive. And you're just trying to build awareness, get your name out there. You can boost your content. So that second row, third one over, you can go into a post and you'll see there's a little button. It says, do you want to boost it? So then you just figure out what your budget is. Get more leads. There's different ways to do that. You can set up a form on a Facebook page, or you can have it go to your website and have somebody fill out like a contact form. So if you're really just getting started, you really don't have many followers, it probably is a good idea to advertise for followers. Again, you put in your geographic if you think there's an interest level. And, there's optics because, again, if somebody's deciding to do business with you and you don't have very many followers, and, I don't know, you're like, well, maybe this isn't the most reputable company. It's just like if you drove by an office and it looked like it was falling apart, right? I mean, what are you going to think about it? If you don't really know the people, you could have the best business in the world, but people do make first impressions. So it is something that we do recommend if you're just really just getting started. Um, Yeah, so again, this is what it looks like, if you're just trying to do some geographic. This is from our page, builder lead marketing. I want to drive people here. I can just do something called learn more. And you can select your media, you upload your creative, and then you set your budget, and the widget kind of guides you through it. There's a lot of automated settings in Facebook, and in our experience we prefer to do the manual ones where we control, at least client by client. We kind of take a look at this, but we've tested into it and we haven't found those to be useful. Now those may be very useful for another industry, I don't know, but I think sometimes you just want to think, is this in my best interest or is this in Facebook's best interest? And maybe you need to test it, frankly. But that's just been our experience. So once again, you can target counties, like this on the left, Pike County, Pennsylvania. You could target that. You can do DMAs, you can do entire states, you can do interests, and then you set your daily budget. You can run it continuously, or you can set an end date. I would probably want to give an ad 2 or 3 days to see how it's doing. If it's a traffic ad and it's per click, we like to see those ads around 25 cents. Um, the average is I think closer to 77 cents for all industries, but that's what we've been able to achieve with our clients. Um, these are the different ad formats. So a carousel is multiple images. That does really well. And then the short form video, as I mentioned earlier, does really well. So again, there are more sophisticated options available. If you really spend a lot of money, they will give you a Facebook rep. They do have some help. They have a pretty decent sort of like automated help. And then if you really run into trouble, and if you really start spending money, you will get somebody calling you. And sometimes they have some good tips. So you might want to take that call. So how do you measure success? Uh, as I mentioned, Facebook, you'll go into your page, you go into insights. So you have to be you have to be a manager on the page, or an admin, and you can go in and you can see how your page is doing. In this case, this is like a client page, so their post reached over 100,000 people over the last 28 days. Almost 4,500 people engaged with the post. And this was not all advertised posts. This was also just organic. So, you can customize your date range. There is a very granular level of insights available. So I encourage you to go look at your Facebook page and go find out, where those are. Go take a look at the data and take a look at, what's working, what's not working. If everything's kind of on the low end, it might be because you're just not spending any money. And again, you don't need to have a huge budget, but you do need to spend, I mean, at least to boost a post, I'd say about $25 to start. And then you can go up from there depending on your budget. This is a sample client ad. So as I said, we kind of like that 25 cents. So you can see your cost per click. This one's around 29 cents. So that's pretty close. We're happy with this ad. Facebook is an extremely efficient form of advertising. I can't really think of too many other ads that, like if you were to take out an ad in a newspaper, okay, geographics, you might get it, but this is just that much more precise level of targeting, even with the housing restrictions. You're really able to reach people. So the other way you can measure, and this is looking at your website, but if you don't have Google Analytics set up on your website, you need to do that. It's free. That's the link, google.com/analytics. And any, good developer should be able to take the code. They give you a little snippet of code, you put it on your website. Any agency can do that too. So you'll be able to see your traffic and your leads. And this is a screenshot from a client. So, they had, I think, through their ads, about 4,600 people, and then 11 people were leads. And this was probably in a 30-day time frame. You can see how organic social is doing. So, that's a little further down on this slide. But Google Analytics will show you how much traffic you're getting from Facebook. I mean, they group it together as social media, but in our experience, it's usually mostly Facebook. That's usually where the traffic is coming from. So, we are about to wrap up, and I think I'd like to just ask everyone, what would it mean to you if you were able to have a successful Facebook strategy, a robust page that had really great content, if you had clients sharing their stories with beautiful pictures of the homes you built, or if you're doing some other form of home services, or maybe if you're a modular manufacturer, your builders are sharing on their pages, what would that do for referrals for your business? What would change in your life if you had more sales, more profits? I think it's always worth, why are we doing all this? You got to bring it back to, the why. And every person's why is different. So again, if you'd like some help, we do Facebook marketing, and we're happy to help you. We are doing this for many other home builders and modular manufacturers, and for other businesses too, not even in the home building industry. So we are seasoned professionals. We also just offer a free digital review. We'll take a look at your website. We'll look at how you're showing up in the search engines, your Google profile. We ask you to give us a couple of your competitors. We can actually see how much traffic they're getting, what they're doing with pay-per-click SEO, how they're faring in social media. And of course, we'll take a look at your social media presence and look at your conversion effectiveness. So if you're interested, you can scan the QR code, you can email me directly, or you can give us a call. That's our 1-800 number. And I'd like to just thank everyone for attending. I hope you'll come to our next webinar. Again, we're doing these monthly, and our goal is to have just a really comprehensive library of content around digital marketing that you can access and implement. I hope you'll follow us on social media. As I mentioned, Builder Lead Marketing is a fairly new brand, so we are actually implementing a lot of what I just shared with you. And I'd also like to just thank the Modular Home Builders Association and the Fairfield County chapter of the Home Builders Association for sharing this webinar and getting the word out. So again, I hope everybody has a great day. Please do connect with us, and hope to see you at the next webinar.